like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
Small, intellectually, politically, and economically insignificant Africa. But is that really true? Now, here are the facts. Africa has a total area space larger than all of Europe, China, and the United States of America combined. Yes, it is 3 times the area of China, 3 times the area of Europe, 3 times the area of United States of America, meaning you can transplant China, Europe, and United States and several other countries on the Africa continent and they will fit neatly. Africa is 30.5 million square kilometers and a youthful population of 1.3 billion inhabitants. China is 9.6 million square kilometers and 1.4 billion inhabitants. India has a total space of 3.3 million square kilometers and 1.4 billion inhabitants. Now, yet, Africa is projected as overpopulated, and pressure mounts on Africans and their leaders to depopulate. Why? Why? Now, please note, Africa is home to 60% of the world's arable land, 90% of raw material reserve, 40% of gold reserve, 33% of diamond reserve, 95% of platinum reserve, and holds the largest bauxite reserves in the world. Of course, in addition to manganese, woods, uranium, crude oil, and others. Yet, the continent is touted as the poverty capital of the world and ripe for depopulation. The question is, why? Well, President Jacques Chirac of France provides an illuminating insight. He said, "We bled Africa for 4.5 centuries. We looted their raw materials, then we told lies that the Africans are good for nothing. In the name of religion, we destroyed their culture. And after being made rich at their expense, we now steal their brains through miseducation and propaganda to prevent them from enacting black retribution against us," unquote. Well, put simply, for over 4 centuries, Africa is not in control of its resources. Look, a 2016 study of Africa by the NGO called War on Want reveals that 101 companies, mostly British, control $305 billion worth of platinum, $276 billion worth of oil, and $216 billion worth of coal at 2016 market prices. Yes, they own mines or mineral licenses in 37 African countries and control vast swaths of Africa's land, 4 times the size of the United Kingdom. Now look, Africa subsidizes the rest of the world by $32 billion annually. A 2017 report by Global Justice Now and other groups estimates that $161.6 billion enter into Africa, while $202.9 billion leave Africa almost every year. For example, in 2017, Africa received a total of $19.7 billion in aid, but paid back $18 billion in debt repayments. Debt burden is killing Africa. African governments have borrowed between 25 and 75% of their GDP, but with little or nothing to show for it. Africans in the diasporas remit not less than $32 billion annually, But multinational companies siphoned $32.4 billion in profits and illicit financial outflows. Look, an estimated $29 billion are stolen via illegal logging, fishing and poaching annually. How can any continent, country or people accumulate and sustain wealth, growth and prosperity with such statistics? That's a great question. Well, look, hopefully, now you know your Africa better. Edmund Mbiaka once wrote, "Peace of mind always comes with knowing who you truly are, where you currently stand, where you positively need to be, and strongly believing in its possibility." Africa needs to control its resources, no doubt. For productive, patriotic, and effective leadership, we need our best and ablest citizens with fortified character in local, state, and federal governments. This must be given utmost consideration in upcoming elections across Africa. Let me say it once more. Our problem is not the age of our leaders, but unfortified character. It is your responsibility to protect and defend your Africa. The starting point is to educate and transform the mindset of our leaders and peoples. Look, the least you can do is to assist with ensuring that this message reaches every African. Slavery destroyed us. Religion divided us. Ignorance controls us.
You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali S.A. Greatest topics of the world like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking your time to come and join us tonight. My name is Ali. I'll be your host for tonight. We apologize. We're just having some technical issues in terms of having the background. Our guest tonight will be having Honorable Dobie Maloba and also Honorable Wachiri coming from Kenya. And we'll also be having Advocate Abraham Mohale coming live from South Africa. We'll be also having Honorable Lukwana from South Africa. And we'll be also having Professor Wachiri coming live from Kenya, Nairobi. We'll be also be having other guests who will be joining us as ghost guests. And we'll be having a lot of people in the panel to come and actually, help us to digest the motion for tonight. All right. The clip that we are playing, it was just coming from a non-profit organization. So it's a clip that we played so that most people, they can understand what is happening in Africa. Because we believe that slavery actually, it destroys Africa. Religion, it divides us. And ignorance, it controls us. And the truth, it scares Africans. You know, I can tell you that ignorance, it controls most of us. We should be aware of the media conspiracy about Africa and its manipulation of Africa. We need to reconstruct Africa. We need to work together in Africa. Not to waste any time, very quickly, I will start with my first guest, Honorable Dobie Maloba. Can you please introduce yourself, my friend?
Good evening to everyone. I'm Dobie Maloba. In occupation description, I can say I am a student at Northwest University, and I'm staying at the Hamasha village at Limpopo.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dobie Maloba. Mr. Wachiri?
Yes, thank you. I am Wachira from Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya in particular. And let me say I'm glad to be here once again. It's an honor.
All right, thank you so much. Advocate Abraham?
Good evening, Chairperson, members of the panel and the listeners. My name is Advocate Abraham Mohale, residing in South Africa, Gauteng, Pretoria. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, my speakers, as the other guests will be joining us as time goes. Now, the motion for tonight. Who controls Africa? Because a lot of people are saying that Africa has been controlled. Some are saying by America, some are saying by Asia, some are saying by China, some are saying there is someone who's controlling Africa. I will start right away to start with Advocate Abram. Advocate Abram, who is controlling Africa and why?
Thank you very much, Person. Thank you very much to the members of the panel. You know, today's motion, it's a very good one, and one needs to be discussed. Who controls Africa and why? Number one, most people are saying America. Some will tell you that it's Britain. Some will tell you that it's China. Actually, there are a lot of countries though that are in Africa controlling and milking Africa's resources. Now, to answer the question, Chairperson, this is my response to this motion. Africa is being controlled by
Hello, I can no longer hear you. I'm not sure if the problem is on my side or maybe it is the system itself.
Okay, I believe it's Advocate. Advocate is on mute. Advocate, please unmute so that we can hear your point. Advocate Abram, you are on mute. You're still digesting the motion that who controls Africa and why. I don't know what's happening with Advocate. Very quickly, while Advocate is still busy, I don't know what's happening. I'm gonna jump very quickly to Mr. Malova. Mr. Malova, looking on the question, who controls Africa and why? From your understanding, Mr. Malova.
Firstly, I can say this topic confused me for a moment because at the beginning, I thought the topic which is going to be discussed tonight is the one of gender-based violence. Then suddenly, we are focusing on who controls Africa.
Yeah.
Uh, I just need clarity on the topic first.
Yeah. No, no,
Are
no,
we
no.
going
It's
to
not.
discuss?
Yeah. No, no. It's not a problem, Mr. Malova. We did actually invite you on
you
two
must remember
motions.
that Africa is
We
one of the richest continents.
Okay. I believe Advocate was having a problem. I believe Advocate was having a problem, but now it's coming back. I want to clarify something on you, Mr. Malova. We invited you on two podcasts. The first podcast is this one, where we'll be talking about Africa, who's controlling Africa. And the second podcast is the one for gender based violence. But for tonight, we're looking at who's controlling Africa. Let's allow Advocate Mahale to finish his point, then you'll come in.
All right, noted.
Okay. Uh, Advocate Abram, can you please come through because we were not able to hear you? Advocate Abram. All right. I don't know what's happening with Advocate. Very quickly, I'll move to you, Wachiri Mutati. What is your view?
Okay, thank you. First of all, before I continue, I have to offer two apologies. One from Professor Weshuli. He has told me to render his apologies for not being able to come early or rather be present at this moment. I also like to apologize. I will not be able to have my video on for unavoidable reasons, but it is my hope that you can hear me quite clearly. So, first of all, the thing that we're supposed to start with, we as a continent, we are acknowledging that the fact that we are being controlled by whatever forces, you can name them, America, China, and so on and so forth. We are being controlled, and that is the truth. So we begin from identifying the problem before we want to seek the solutions. So the truth of the matter is we have acknowledged, and it is true that we are being controlled. We cannot stand and lie and say that we are not being controlled, or rather we are acting from a free will point of action, but we are being controlled. But to me, the reason why, to answer now why, because you have asked who control Africa and why. So for me, how I can best answer the part of why is what I like to call inferiority complex that is embedded in our identity. The inferiority complex was brought forth by those people who thought that they were superior. So the people who had the superiority complex, And now we do agree that whatever happens to us, what happened to us, they brought that inferiority complex to us. But now the issue is that our ignorance is what is keeping us here. We are allowing it. We are allowing ourselves to be controlled. We are allowing ourselves to feel inferior. And I keep saying everything begins and ends in the mind. And so does the matter of Africa being controlled by whatever forces that are controlling Africa. It is simply a mind game. It is just simply a mind game. If it all boils down to the mind of the African person. There was a writer who was called a Ghana. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's a Ghanaian or a Nigerian actor called Bafor Ankana. Wrote an article and said that then, and he was talking about the inferiority complex syndrome, as he puts it. That is back in the year 2019, and he says in the when he was going to Accra in Ghana, he met a man in the street, and he told him that, you see, if God had given black women beards, they will have put extension on them. This is because the African woman is putting extension on her hair, on eyebrows, fingers, and nails. Simply, they are what we are calling walking extensions. So this writer who was writing this article was just simply trying to show us about the issue of the inferiority complex. So to answer the question why Africa is being controlled, I would like to put it in a very simple manner. It is because of inferiority complex. It has been put in our psychology, or rather, it was put. We are continuing to put it, and we are not doing anything about it. So it all begins and ends in the mind. That is my response to that first question. Thank you.
Hello.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Wachiri Mutati, advocate. I don't know what's happening with advocate. He shall be back just now. Mr. Maloba, looking on the motion, who controls Africa? I like how Mr. Wachiri Mutati was tackling it for different contexts. From your view, Mr. Maloba?
From my view, I can say Africa is not necessarily controlled. Instead, it is somehow influenced by the developed countries such as America. They are setting social standards for us. These standards are coming into Africa and South Africa particularly through globalization. So, in that context, it is the matter of following the standards of development. So, United States of America is one of those developed countries in a way that they pose influence not only to Africa but to the entire world. In a way that if something happens in America, it is likely that the same trend or the same social norm can also take place in Africa. But the same thing is different when coming to Africa. If something happens in Africa, it is very less likely, or not at all possible for it to flow through globalization to United States of America. But just now I touched on the social aspect of the topic. On the economic aspect, I can say we are not controlled at all. The problem with Africa is that we are facing is corruption and mismanagement of our state. So at the moment, focusing on putting the blame on other countries, I don't think it is proper or relevant at this point. Unlike back there during the colonization and apartheid time, during those days, it would be relevant to say we are controlled by United States of, I mean, Britain and other colonies. It would be relevant to say we are controlled by them. But at the moment, we are an independent state, and we have the authority to take all the decisions on our own. So when we are looking on the control aspect, mainly we have to focus on how is the government influenced? Is it really independent? At the moment, I can say it is fully independent, although somewhere, somehow, we experience the threats of being influenced, such as during the time of Jacob Zuma, whereby he allowed foreigners to influence the decision making of the government. But except for that incidents, South African government is quite independent.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Maloba. All right. Now, I want to ask this question also to you, Mr. Maloba, and also Wachiri. When we are saying that, when you, Mr. Maloba, is saying that Africa is not per se controlled, but it's influenced, what are some of the factors which might be contributing towards some of these African countries to be influenced by, maybe for, as an example, by America? Why are they being influenced by America, not being influenced by
Uh,
other African countries?
uh, it is one of the reasons is because America is the richest country in the world. I can't say the richest, let me say one of the rich countries in the world. So development is quite high in America to a point that for us to follow the trend of development, at some point we find ourselves following the steps of America. Yeah, it is in what sense whereby it is influenced. And somehow the influence which is taking place is not voluntarily. It is somehow involuntary because of the globalization spectrum.
All right, all right. Okay, thank you so much, Wachiri.
Thank you very much. First of all, allow me to, despite the fact that I respect very much the opinions of my colleague here, I'd like to differ with him with what he's saying, that we are not controlled but rather influenced. In my
Okay.
humble opinion, I believe very strongly that Africa is being controlled. Then, how do you explain to me that certain African countries' budgets are approved in France? How do you tell me how America has the power to impose sanctions on certain African countries, and it influences the entire world, or how the world behaves towards that country? So I think, first of all, in order for us to have this conversation properly, let us allow ourselves to be proper students of history. Let us go back to the era of World War One, back in 1918, 1914 rather, and even the world at the end of the World War Two in 1945. And let us see how, after the fall of the USSR, that is how America took over and became the superpower. And there was an issue of bipolar system in matters of the international relations, until China now came in, bringing a tripolar sort of system. So America is controlling, or rather is a major controller, because one of its economic power, and the other because of its military power. This is because of how it was able to position itself and strategize itself after the World War One and World War Two. Economic power in terms of what I've talked about, things like sanctions, and then military power. We see how they are going and infiltrating other countries, like Afghanistan. We just saw the other day how the Taliban reacted, and they were chased away. So I believe America is where it is because of how it has positioned itself since since the early 20th century. And it is true that America is one of the biggest controllers, because they are influencing Africa in manners that they are not quite public in ways that people can be able to see them, because they are making backdoor deals. And this is what people do know, but they don't want to acknowledge, because of fear. They are influencing countries in one way or the other. You see, if you don't follow this policy, we are going to do this against you. We are going to do something that will disfavor you. So America is very strong. It's a very big controller, for lack of a better word. Thank you.
All right. I don't know, Mr. Manoba. Do you want to respond directly to Honorable Wachiri? Because Honorable Wachiri is saying that yes, America is one of the major controller. Looking on the sanction, yes, somehow I might agree with you, Wachiri, because there are sanctions which are coming from America directed to certain countries, which are working. And even now, we're aware that America will be monitoring some of the relationship that Russia might be having in Africa. I don't know, Mr. Maloba. Before we go through to the second question, do you have anything to say?
Based on the statement which he just mentioned now, I can say I agree with some of what he mentioned, except for the part that we are entirely controlled by America. because at the moment we are independent. As I mentioned, I agree that based on the history part back there during colonialization, I can fully agree that we were controlled by such countries, literally controlled. But at the moment, we are not directly controlled. Instead, I can call it an influence. Our political or economic decisions are somehow influenced by other political actors on the international relations spectrum, not necessarily controlling us directly, because at this stage in time, we have all the freedom and authority to take all the political decisions we aspire to take without any uh, direct control. Instead, I call it influence. I agree with what you mentioned, but I just slightly disagree with the fact that we are being literally controlled. I can say we are being influenced because at the moment, most of our African failures, we tend to vest them on other international actors instead of taking the blame on ourselves. The main problem we are facing as Africa is the issue of corruption. It is very rife and mismanagement. If we were able to manage our resources uh, perfectly, most probably, who knows, we will be the most richest continent in the world. Even America, at some stage or entirely, it would also be controlled by Africa if we were able to manage our country and our continent entirely.
Okay, so I want to get this point, Mr. Maloba. Are you saying that the problem with Africa is having a lack of management skill in terms of for them to manage their resources? If Africa had
Yeah,
a good management skill, Africa could be one of the richest countries in the world.
yeah, because this thing of development and progress is mainly dependent on one's decision making and governance. In the history, there is this city which is portrayed by the books of history called the richest city in no, which is called Babylon, which was very rich by those days. When we go very close to that city, it is portrayed as a city which was the most richest city in those days. But they say at the same time they say one would think that city was surrounded by natural resources and many other resources which may advantage it by that time, which is not the case. Babylon was more like a desert. It didn't have water, it didn't have minerals, it didn't have many other resources. One thing which placed Babylon, the city of Babylon, on the advantage side is because it was concentrated with intelligent people who were good in governing that city, people who were good in taking decisions, and so on. Even on the international relations, they were very competitive to a point that many other cities which had rich resources, natural resources, they were able to make profit from those cities, from all those areas. Eventually, Babylon was the most rich city in those days. Now, the very same situation is portrayed by what is happening between Africa and America and many other developed countries. If you may go into detail, those countries have very less or no natural resources, which may place them on the advantage side. Here in Africa, we have all those resources, but we are almost the poorest continent in the world, although we have all those natural resources. So the question is, what is disadvantaging us? It is not necessarily other people. We should stop pointing fingers on other people and instead put the blame on ourselves. So from that point, it is whereby maybe we can arrive at the effective solution of our problems. Yeah, it is how I'm perceiving the entire situation.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Manoba. Okay, very quickly before we move to the next question, I want to check. Washiri, Honorable Maloba is saying that, you know, one of the big problem here which we're having in Africa is mismanagement and corruption. Since we're not able to manage, our resources, and we also have these thieves who are also contributing towards corruption. That's the main reason why Africa today it's been influenced. If that's what I may say, that's one of the reasons why Africa has been influenced. How do you wrap up this first round, Wachiri, based on the last words which were said by my fellow friend here, Mr. Malova?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I like to make it quite clear that my colleague here, we are just singing the same song but from different mouths. I have not said that we are totally being controlled by those other forces. I want to agree with him 100% because there's the issue of sovereignty and jurisdiction among African countries and the African region as a whole. What I wanted to make clear is that let us first agree that that is what is happening. And then it is true that we are being influenced, but now I remember as I when I was beginning my whatever I was saying, I say that we let them because now we cannot be pointing fingers just as he has said, because there is hope. There is always the message of hope in Africa. And you see now hope will come when there is political will, where there is strong revolutionary leadership, the one that will be able to manage and work well with our resources and be able to take Africa in another level. We have seen the new crop of modern Pan-Africanists. We have seen leaders who are quite capable of taking their country to the next level. For example, in Tanzania, the former president, the late John Pombe Magufuli, was a really good leader, and he tried to revolutionize his country in the Tanzanian terms. So I want to make it clear that we cannot blame them, and it is not the fact that we are totally being controlled. It is, yes, we are being controlled to an extent, and we cannot lay all the blame and all the problems to the controllers, quote unquote, the controllers. So the solutions are going to begin from us. The solutions are already with us, but now the issue is who are capable enough, who is strong enough, who is powerful, and who is not fearful to push on and forward these changes in Africa. Yeah, that's what I can say at that point. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Very quickly, we're going to take a short break, and after that, we're just going to wrap up the show.
You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world, like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali. You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world, like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
All right, thank you so much. You're back from the break. We were still digesting the first question where we were saying who's controlling Africa. I'm not alone. I'm with Honorable Toby Maloba and also Wachiri Mutati, also coming from Nairobi, Kenya. But I like what the speakers were saying. One speaker is saying that, yes, Africa is being controlled by the likes of America and also other countries which are having superpowers are controlling Africa. And one speaker saying that, yes, I agree with you. Africa is being controlled, but Africa is having a problem in terms of managing its resources, and some of our leaders are also corrupt. Some people are saying that the only way things can be controlled in Africa, it needs to adopt a policy called population control. Population control is whereby they will tell you that you don't have so many children. You need to have one boy and one girl, or you can only have two children. You're not allowed to have so many children. You're only allowed to have only 2 or 3 children. Some are saying Africa is overpopulated. Africa is having a lot of people. There need to be population control in Africa. Some are saying that things which are happening in Africa, the only resolution to it is population control. I want to hear from my speakers, which are joining me tonight before we wrap up the show. What is their view looking on the population control in Africa? Is it relevant that African Union needs to adopt a policy called population control, such as China, where they're controlling population? I will start with you, Wachiri Mutati. What is your view on this one?
First of all, I would like to acknowledge that the issue of population control rather in Africa is a very touchy topic. It's a very, we are trading in murky waters right now when you're talking about population control in Africa. And you see, Africa is the cradle of mankind. We say Africa is the bedrock of life, where everything is present, everything balanced at at its best. That's why even Africa has the best climate in comparison with other parts of the country. And that's why I really find it difficult to really convince me that population control is really necessary in Africa. You see, they say population control is a way of culling, translocation, manipulation of the reproductive capability of human beings. And to me, I don't think this is the right way to solve African problems. African problems are there and they exist because of ignorance. People in Africa are ignorant to the highest level. Some of them is because they are illiterate, some of them is because they just don't care. Because if you tell me you are going to limit population in Africa and the leaders are still corrupt and the people are still poor and the people are still they're languishing in poverty, how are we going to and more than 90% or even 99% of Africa's wealth is being held by a certain individual? How is population control going to save all that? So I really find it difficult to understand, and I really want to somehow disagree with the issue of population control being a solution to African problems. I do not think it is a solution. We need to look at other issues, and it is within the people themselves. Not reducing those people will not help anything. Let the people come, let the population flow. I somehow do agree that sometimes the population goes to an extent which is rather unmanageable. But you see, if people are educated, if people know the repercussions of this population, I think they'll change their thinking. If people are introduced to this new way of thinking, because Africans, I think that is the biggest issue. People do not want to think. People don't look at things in another way. So that is my stand on population control. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Wachiri. All right. So, for some people to say that population control, they're saying that Africa is having a lot of people in Africa. That's why we're having a lot of problems in Africa. But if they can control the population, it will be quite easy. Now, very quickly, before I come back to you, Wachiri, I want to check with Toby Malova. Mr. Malova, I can see that you're still on mute. Okay, let me unmute you. You're unmuted, Mr. Malova. What is your view looking on the population control in Africa? Should African countries adopted the policy of population control to control the population in African countries?
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Malova?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Uh, the policy, the policy of population control, to me, is inhumane, and again, it
Okay.
is in contrast to the fundamental principles of humanity and also of the values of Africa. So I stand to disagree with the strategy of controlling the population. Yeah. So this thing of not being able to manage the country, we cannot shift it to the growth of population. Growth of population cannot be the main cause of that. Instead, what is mainly required is how we have to manage our economy and our government. Besides that, the issue of trying to establish population control strategies is very inhumane and in contrast to the values of Africa.
I hear that both speakers. They back not to agree with the population control. But countries such as China, it's working for them. China, there is population growth, and China is working for them. If you look at China, China is one of the biggest country in the world where you can see that there is control, there is growth. Most of the people who are in China are quite focused. Most of them, they're into skills. They have different skills. Some are saying because of the population control that is in China, it's allowing people. A lot of people, they spend much of their time being productive. Some, according to reports, are saying that population control is working. Why not Africa trying population control? Wachiri?
Thank you, Ali. You see, Africa, first of all, is not China. You cannot compare these two people. They are different and diverse in their own manner. And you see, that is why there are some theories in the discipline of sociology showcases the weaknesses of trying to copy paste, if I can call it like that. You cannot copy paste solutions from different parts of the world and bring it to Africa. And I remember I was listening to one Professor Pielo Lumumba, who is from our very own country, Kenya, and he was saying that we as Africa need to define our problems. You see, when we define our problems, then now we are going to source for our solutions. We cannot mirror, we cannot copy paste the solutions that have been brought forth by different people in other parts of the country and bring it to Africa and assume it will work in Africa. I don't think it goes like that. And I want to say this as because we are wrapping up the show, is I keep saying, and I say that I like keep saying this, and let me say it again once more, is we need to conscientize Africans. I keep telling you that the problems of Africa begin and end in the African mind. You see, remember what the Europeans did, or rather the people who were colonizing Africa. What did they do? They decided to colonize Africa through the mind. It was impossible to colonize the Africans through the physical. So they had to go through the mental. And if it worked to colonize us through the mental, and they caged us in a manner that it will be so hard for us to free ourselves, it is also the best solution that we're going to use as Africans ourselves, that we are going to work on our thinking. We, the people who know or think we know what is best for our people, we try and conscientize our people, and they'll come out of this cocoon or these prisons that they have put their mind into, rather than trying to copy paste solutions from other countries and from other parts of the world. And you see, maybe we can copy paste these solutions and they fail terribly in Africa. So I think the best way we can handle this issue, or any other issue that affects Africa, despite the discussion that we might have, despite the theories that we may talk about, despite the all methods that we may go about, I think at the end of it all, we should know that we as Africans need to define our problems by ourselves. Then we find the solutions by ourselves. And one of those ways is conscientizing our African mind and conscientizing our African people. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. But Wachiri, look, some countries are already, indirectly so, they've already adopted the population control method, because some method that they're using, you find that they're using like, I could say, they're like, I could say, like they're providing good sex education programs, and also like implementing the likes of family planning programs that enable access to contraceptions. So that is also part of population control. If you are offering family planning to the people, so, indirectly so, you are taking role in terms of population control. You are trying to control the population. When governments are coming with such programs to say that women or men they must go through family planning and whatsoever, that is part of population control. So very quickly before I go to you, Wachiri, let me come back to Toby Maloba. Mr. Maloba, what is your take looking at the population control, also based on what Wachiri just said?
Actually, I agree with him based on the fact that we can't rely on copy and paste method in approaching our problems. However, in some context, I can say copy and paste can be effective depending on the specific problem. We have to, that mechanism which is applied somewhere else is working, and also we have to obviously check on their specific problem, so we can match the problems and the solutions. If you may try to take a look on various policies which our government implements, most of those policies, and not only our government, most of the governments in South Africa, and not only to the governments, also to the universities. Just recently, there is a mechanism which was applied to Stellenbosch University, which is called Student Assembly. It is a mechanism mainly focusing on solving some of the problems of the students. So the very same mechanism, we copied the mechanism from Stellenbosch University and applied it here at Northwest University. And the mechanism is perfectly working out, and it is okay. This thing of copy and paste is only a problem whereby you copy a solution whereby you do not have the same challenges. If the challenges are the same and the context at which you apply the solution is the same, then I don't find anything wrong with that. It is also going to save time and the resources of trying to test the mechanism towards that problem. So in this context, if the mechanism is working out in another country and the context to which we apply the solution are the same, then I can say it is somehow an advantage in that way, because we have already seen that thing working out somewhere else. So the probabilities of it working out in our context are increasing.
Okay. But Honorable Malaba, don't you think population control it can assist in other countries? For instance, look, I'm quite sure in Africa there are other countries where they're experiencing the likes of water shortages. Remember, when the population is, when you have a lot of people or the population is high, obviously you are going to have like your resources. You'll have limited resources because of the population is quite high. Don't you think if the African Union can come with a way to influence the African countries that they need to try to control the population, so that the resources that they can have, the resources that the governments are having, they can be able to, everyone can benefit. Imagine now if the government wants to offer people RTP houses. Not everyone will have those houses. Reason being is that we are overpopulated. Why don't the government come with taxes such as child tax?
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
At the moment, as Africa, I acknowledge we have a problem. But now, mainly focusing on controlling the level of population is us not focusing on exactly where is our problem. If our governance system fails us, even if the population may be reduced to the lowest population in the world, they're still going to fail us. So now, the first approach from how I'm viewing this situation is the focus on a reconstruction of the governance system, on how everything is being managed. on how we can reduce or combat, if possible, the corruption which is hovering the governments of Africa. So, in that way, we can eventually arrive at the solution, unlike to fix where there is no problem. Hello?
Uh, yes, Mr. Maloba.
Can you still
We
hear
can
me?
hear you, sir. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm saying the population is not really a problem. The problem is within how we are managing our resources, how we are taking our government based decisions for the people in the country. So, mainly, let's, as a country, we have to focus on how we can reconstruct our governance system. We have to make sure that the governance system is very clean. There is no corruption. The everything is perfectly managed, and we no longer have those corrupt public officials.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Maloba. Now we are actually wrapping the show. I'd like to check with Washiri. Washiri, what is your submission based on the first question and the second question when we're wrapping the show? What is your submission, Washiri?
Oh, thank you, Ali. But before I get there, allow me just to say this.
Yes,
Uh,
please go through.
I'm a student of political science at Kenyatta University here in Kenya. And I just the other day, or rather Thursday and Friday, I was fortunate enough to attend a symposium that was about the dissemination of some research that was done by different fellows. And one of the issues was surrounding the matters of refugee, and we're talking about the refugee that had come from Somalia to Kenya through the Kakuma, and they're settling in the Kakuma camp. Others from Ethiopia, others from those, and the others from the other side at the Dadaab camp. And now coming to bring it now in conjunction with what you're talking about, you are talking about population control. And now I want to ask myself, those people who are right now refugees in different countries that they are not their home countries, were they refugees because they were overpopulated, or are they refugees because of whatever was happening in their country that had to do with nothing with their population? Yes, I do agree that population is a matter, it's a matter that is affecting Africa, but is it really the primary matter that is affecting Africa? Yes, contraceptives and family planning strategies are being used across board in the entire Africa, but remember, these things or these equipments were brought to Africa to help us from languishing more to whatever poverty we had placed ourselves in, not to solve our problems, not to bring in new solutions. They were just bringing to solve the issues that we already brought ourselves into. Now, if you're going to control the population, how is that going to reduce corruption in Africa? How is that going to bring new ways of garnering more food for the people who are dying of hunger in Africa? How is that even going to for example, you've talked about water. You see, people don't have water is because of people are using the water badly, and people do not know how to deal with matters of how to harvest more water or how to spread water across various parts of the world. And population control, or rather the population has nothing to do with it. I tend to think that the creator created Africa with the resources that it required quite well. The issue is the mismanagement of resources. The issue is we do not know how to handle these resources. So to wrap up from first the from the first question, which was dealing with the control of Africa and now the population control, I would like to say in a very brief manner, we have seen and we have discussed here that Africa is controlled, and one of my colleagues has put it quite clearly, is we are not really controlled, but let's say we are influenced, and I want to agree with that new perspective. But I also just want to add on it that we are being influenced because we allow ourselves to be influenced, and we are not doing anything about it. And the matter of population control, I think population control is a good thing in a very basic manner, but I don't think is a solution, or rather a good and formidable the solution to the problem that Africa we are facing today. So thank you very much for that opportunity and for the discussion that we've had today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Washir Mutati. Very quickly, Mr. Maloba, what is your submission as we are wrapping up the show?
Uh, I would like to thank you for the opportunity we have had tonight to have a discussion on one of the most controversial topics. And also, yes, my thanks to my fellow colleague here. Then on the topic, I can say, yeah, I'm very clear that eventually somehow we are drifting to the same view that Africa is somehow influenced because of our mismanagement of the resources. And again, this thing of uh, population control cannot be effective solution to the problems we have in Africa. Instead, we have to focus on the roots of the problem, which is mainly how the government is managed, which is managed poorly. So we have to fix how our resources should be managed, how our economy can be managed. Eventually, even no matter how the population can keep on growing, I believe the resources we have, and especially if they are managed effectively, they can be enough for all of us. Thank you
All
so much.
right. All right. Thank you so much, Wachiri Mutati, joining us live from Kenya, Nairobi. Honorable Dobi Maloba joining us live from South Africa. Thank you so much for taking your time to come and join the show tonight.